Dave Chang here. If you've thought about a career in the culinary arts, oftentimes you're probably not going to hear maybe a position in a jail, maybe a lunch lady or lunch man. These are positions that if you enter, they're not really made sexy or cool. And if you stay tuned and listen to our interview with Dan Giusti today, maybe you'll think about those differently, because I certainly do. We're also going to do a little bit of a conversation as we start off 25 years of 2025. We're going to go back 25 years and talk about 25 years of food trends. Interview Dan Giusti, our good friend, founder of Brigaid, formerly of Noma. Yeah, you can see a lot of Dan, I think, in places like the Bear, and then we're going to get into an Ask Dave. So stay tuned. Thanks. Welcome to the Dave Chang Show, part of the Ringer Podcast Network, presented by Major Domo Media. Thank you, Yola Tango, as always. So, on the recommendation of the Podfather himself, he's like, why don't you talk about 25 years of 25 food trends? And I was like, that's a really good fucking idea. You are the Podfather. So, in no order, and Chris doesn't even know we're doing this.
I have no idea.
Because I just came from lunch with Bill. I thought, what would be a good one to start? Mm-hmm. Things that were not cool that are cool. And there's so many. Okay. You know, I think off of my head, you got kale, you got charcuterie boards, you got homemade everything, lactobacillic. We're going to get into all that stuff. And quite frankly, there's probably way more than 25.
Sure. But
I'll tell you, just as a stream of consciousness, the first thing that popped in my head for 25 years of 25 food trends. What do you think? I that's a stupid thing to ask. That's a rhetorical question.
What do you got?
Avocado toast.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I could not think of an ingredient that was more unlikely, right? People might say kale, and we'll definitely talk about kale, but actually I think it made sense, because I can tell you the exact moment when kale became popular. Okay. Because much like we figured out how humans invented cheese, we figured out and isolated the exact moment without having to go back in time when kale became popular.
Just as a quick aside, if anybody's like, what the hell did he mean how cheese was invented? Go back and listen to the episode where Dave speculates it's just like two stone dudes who were supposed to get milk delivered somewhere and just took their sweet time.
Paleolithic era, right? Anyway, I think avocado toast is truly remarkable because I just can't see in any universe, even the multiverse, where that would be a combination where people are like, yeah. You know what I mean? Most people's introduction to avocado was just avocado equals guacamole.
Yes. I will say for sure, actually, it's wild that you're saying this because people maybe can't bring themselves back to this moment. The first time I heard of the idea avocado toast, I'll be honest, I was like, what the fuck? Why would I put avocado on toast?
Well, as the Aussie says, avo toast.
Avo toast.
Avo toast.
Paint a picture here. How big of a trend is this? How important of a trend is this before we
when
get
you
into
think about how fucking massive this trend has been, just think and ask yourself, when like a normal breakfast menu across the world for the most part now has avocado toast. That was not something that was on the menu in 1999. Mm-hmm. Maybe it started in Bill's in Australia, who passed a couple years ago. Great restaurant. And I would still say Australia does avocado toast better than anybody. They really embraced it. Again, very crazy that of course it makes sense, but the sheer quantity of avocado toast around the country, around the world, is just staggering. Mm-hmm. I don't have any data. It's just my top 25 of 25 years of food trends. The thing that I've just never understood was avocado toast. I remember, I can't remember which restaurant, somebody put avocado toast on. I was like, what the fuck? Like a brunch menu. I was like, no.
Is there a legacy to, so get into this a little bit, because you alluded to avocado toast comes from Australia, which some people might not know.
It started at Bill's, I believe.
And
which is, again, crazy. You're like, wait, people weren't doing it the entire time?
Wild to think that it came from a certain place.
Yeah.
What is, the legacy beyond just avocado toast is everywhere, because Australian breakfast changed things generally.
Yeah, because they realized maybe not everything from Britain is a good thing. And no offense, I personally don't love British breakfasts.
Yeah.
Australian breakfast is a different thing.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Australia. They take breakfast so goddamn seriously, it's not even funny. Nobody takes breakfast more seriously than Australians. Full stop.
And if they took other things as seriously as they took breakfast, they would be achieving more highly.
Yeah. Do you agree with this?
They
shocking.
take it very, very seriously. Avocado toast also became proliferated so much because it was... There's an element of it that was like, oh, if you're a coffee shop, you can only really serve pastries, things that you can't cook anything.
But the genius of it was you have a product that you could always be ahead and keep it room temp, so you don't have to refrigerate it. Secondly, you don't need HVAC, you don't need a hood.
You need a toaster.
So you need a toaster, you need a cutting board and a knife, and you can see all different variations. The nice slice, you can see the chunks, you can see it with chili, you can see different shape, different kinds of bread. I think my favorite versions in Australia were like Double Bay is like the super posh part of Australia, and that was like my first time I had avocado toast, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really good." And it was on like a Lebanese bread. Whew. I was like, "Whoa, I get it. This is fucking delicious."
Oh, like a flatbread.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
But it was crunchy. It was like almost like a wafer.
Oh shit.
They've been doing it so long. They have variations and variations that you've never even seen. So when you think about something that also everyone can eat for the most part, it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
This is not something that was on menus before 25 years ago, and hotels, you name it. I don't know if it's on like a Denny's Grand Slam breakfast, but I wouldn't be surprised. But just the introduction of avocado, which I've never seen before, with the exception of maybe a chilaquile or something like chilaquile. It's like, you didn't really see avocado
into breakfast. Yeah, I feel you. Safe to say you file avocado toast into a positive trend of the past 25 years?
Yes. These are all trends that are positive.
We're celebrating the 25.
Celebrating.
25. Got it.
We're life affirming.
Got it.
Avocado toast. Avo toast.
I'm craving one now. I haven't had one for a minute.
They're always good.
I know. That's the other feature of the avocado toast. Pretty high floor for avocado toast.
But I don't understand is I would rather have it mashed
than sliced.
Because sliced, it's hard to eat. It looks Instagrammable. But,
super pretty, hard to eat. I agree with that too.
But yeah. I mean,
it's a good one.
That's Australia's only offering for the past 25 years.
Okay.
Because their fucking burger definitely isn't making it. That's the negative. That's the not top 25. I mentioned at the top of the pod, there's a lot of different jobs you can get in cooking. And anytime you wear chef whites or cook in any capacity, it's not easy. And I think I was, I wouldn't say misinformed, but there's a lot of been biases that have been disproven over the past 25 years. And I think one of them is where and what defines a good chef. And I think over the years we have seen sort of that great food can be in places that are not temples of fine dining and French. It's been a slow crawl, but food is much better everywhere. But I would still say that, food is still probably considered things you might see on the Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's wearing chef whites and a toque. And I think Dan Giusti is going to be here today to talk to us about how a lot of us were dead wrong. He is a good friend of ours. We have not seen him since the pandemic. Before, probably last time we saw Dan Giusti was in Copenhagen when he was the CDC of Noma. And Giusti.
We love Giusti. Throughout the pandemic, we would talk to him, just not even on the pod. We just had a standing weekly call just to sort of one of those guys you want to talk to.
Well, it was also just to commiserate a misery because, boy, those are dark days. But Dan is the epitome of what I feel is missing sometimes in kitchens today. And not just kitchens, probably culture. The guy that's going to be the backbone, the guy that doesn't necessarily want the praise, the glory, because he did. He won all kinds of awards in the Washington, D.C. area. I was very familiar with the restaurant he was the executive chef of, 1789 in Georgetown. Many days I would stumble hungover from my friend's dorm room trying to find my car where I parked it in Georgetown, and it was always near 1789. And it was funny enough that Dan was the chef there, and he won a bunch of awards there. And it tells you a lot about an individual when he eats a whole helping of humble pie, and he goes to Noma because he's like, maybe I don't know as much as I know. And again, like, these are real stories based on real people that you see in the bear, right? So it's not like new. And someone like Dan, who I think we'll talk to, we'll see is very, how should I say? Humble's not the right word. He is a very humble guy, but honest about his abilities.
Mm-hmm.
He has a special skill set that he'll say isn't to be the number one greatest chef in the world, but he ran the kitchen at the number one restaurant in the world. He just has, how would you like to describe Chris Yang?
Well, I think he's got what you like, which is some degree of pragmatism
And integrity.
Yeah.
And you'd never see this guy making his own goddamn ketchup in-house. For sure. And we met Dan before he was even a sous chef, and then he became a sous chef, then became CDC, and boy, those were the days, right? He saw the highs, the very highs and the very lows of Noma, and those were the go days too, right?
Sure.
And there was a lot of pressure, and I just marvel at his ability to run things and to have command of a giant kitchen. And usually when you get to be a CDC at number one restaurant, you go and open up your own restaurant.
Yeah.
You try to kill your mentor. You try to win as many awards as possible. Not usually, but that's sort of like the trajectory. And, you know, I think Dan had a real moment. And I remember talking to him when he was thinking about doing Brigade, his idea that he'll explain again. I can't remember when, but he talked about it way back in the day. And we'll probably have a link for that. He sort of shunned it all.
Mm-hmm.
And he chose a path that a lot of people are like, what are you doing?
I think that's totally true. But don't you? So you said people were going to fine dining restaurant somewhere like Noma, super, super, super ambitious kitchen. They reach maybe the peak of what they can accomplish there. Their head chef, CDC, whatever. Then they go on and try to open their own restaurant or to kill their mentor. Don't you also think sometimes there are the chefs who reach the top of a place, a mountaintop, and then at the end, when it's time to leave, maybe don't have a clarity of purpose, right?
It's hard.
That's why Dan was so different.
Yeah, and I mean, the only thing I could make a comp to was the great Alex Lee, who at the age, I believe, at 36, stepped down from running the kitchen at Danielle. And I've talked about that moment a lot because it was a monumental moment for all kinds of chefs, specifically for Asian Americans. It's like, what? You're supposed to go further and further and further. And he's like, no, fuck this. I'm done. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand what I now understand. And, you know, we have this prevailing theory here on MDM that great food is going to find a way to sort of survive and thrive in places you least expect it. And we've seen that time and time again in neighborhoods, in places of the world that you would never expect, cuisines that you would never expect, locations, train stations, movie theaters, airports, you name it. And really a real indication of a great food culture is great food in places that you expect it to not be good. Mm-hmm. And one place historically that has not been good are in sort of industrial food places. When I say by that, by like, you know, hospitals, senior centers, elementary schools, high schools, prisons.
Where cooking is more referred to as food service is basically what we're talking about.
And for a refresher, he's in the kids episode of season 2 of Ugly Delicious. And it's a little bit of a primer about Brigade. We'll let Dan talk quickly about Brigade. It's been a while. He's our good friend, and we're going to get down with Dan Giusti. As you can see, we're joined by an Italian-American. We don't really get a lot of those.
I am.
From Jersey, of all places.
This is the real deal here.
One of the last Italian-Americans who will speak to us.
This is authentic. This is authentic.
We haven't listened.
Really? Are you guys, you don't get a lot? No. They turn you guys down?
Mm-hmm. Or we turn them down.
They keep on rejecting our applications to join.
You know, we haven't spoken in some time, but the funny thing is, at least with me and my friends, I don't have to speak to you for like maybe for 20 years and everything's the same.
You just got to get right back into it.
Just get right back into it, and it's
That's
right
the
back.
best. That's the
we
best.
are right back to the way it was.
Yeah.
And even before the beginning of the pandemic, and if you listen to one of those early podcasts when Dan was on there, we'd call each other like the first month or two, and then we're like, wow, everything is terrible. Besides that, we have known each other going on 13 years or something like that.
It's been a minute, yeah.
And I was said in the top of the pod, because I've been coming to Noma for a long time. Fucking time. Before you started,
right?
Too. I remember being the only guest one night at the restaurant.
That's
right?
crazy.
It's crazy, right? To think about.
Can't
And there was another person, so it was like 2 tables. It was us. And then, like, you know, we would see each other all the time. And then Americans really hadn't come over yet. It had, but not really. You had Matt and Orlando.
Right. It was a little rare.
It was a rarity thing. It was more Aussies. If you're English speaking, they're more Aussies or like British.
Right.
So, you know, as you spend time in the kitchen, and I was cooking a lot more back then, I'd be like, you know, who speaks English? Because I can't speak anything else. It's like, oh, this guy over here speaks English.
This fucking guy.
This
Then you hear
This Italian Jersey boy's voice in the background.
He's taller than everybody.
It's like you suddenly thought less of Restaurant Noma, and you're like, this guy actually works here.
And then, sure enough, you rose through the ranks. And, you know, when Renee gets excited about somebody or something, he always tells you, Chief. You know, he always says, Chief. You hear it? You hear this? I was like, yeah. And he's like, he's a sous chef. And then all of a sudden, who was the CDC? It was Matt.
It was Matt, yeah.
Matt Orlando, handsome fucking guy.
Very handsome.
Yeah, like a bit of the golden child at the time.
Oh, and he's from San Diego.
He was
San
like
Diego
nicest guy. You know, he worked at Per Se. He worked at the
Opening
Fat
team,
Duck.
yeah.
He worked everywhere.
Everywhere. He was the one American that was like, God damn it. He's at all the fucking
Yeah,
restaurants.
pretty much.
You know, it was like,
Pretty much.
What? He was at opening team Per Se, and Ben was like, that guy's really good. I was like, fuck. You know? You type to Kyle Connaughton or any of the Fat Duck guys are like, that American guy was really good.
And everyone liked him, too.
Everyone loves him.
Just such a likable guy, you know.
And then, you know, his, you know, Danish wife, etc. And you're like, oh. And he leaves a legacy, goes to open up a mosque, etc., etc. So you had big shoes to fill.
Oh, huge shoes. People were fucking... I mean, I always tell people I remember the day that they announced that I was going to become the head chef, and like, he announced it, and it was like crickets. It was fucking... And I don't say that to be funny, because I think people were like... Some people were confused. I think some people might not even have known who I was. Some people were...
How long you were there before you became head chef?
A year and a half. It was a very short period of time. And they kind of like told me like within like 7 months of me starting there, and then kind of groomed me knowing that Matt was going to leave. Yeah, after like 7 or 8 months, I thought I sucked. Like I was struggling. I couldn't even keep up like physically. Because, you know, most of the people there were like 21, 22, 23. I was like 28, 29. Hadn't worked in a restaurant like that. And I went to Matt and I was like, I don't really know if I'm doing a good job, if I can keep up. And that's what they told me. They were like, Matt was like, I'm leaving in a year and we want you. So it was, I guess, a year and like 7 months.
I know this because like I was part of a lot of these conversations.
I'm sure.
Like, this is good shit though, because this is like, you get to see inside the cardinal conclave here of like how they announce the next pope.
Yeah. It was serious because I know when it was time for me to leave, like that whole thing is like they took that it was a very serious thing, you know.
And he had so Renee had talked to you about like I'm thinking
yeah,
about
because
this
like
guy.
at that time we're talking about everything, and there was so much shit going on back then, and you know he was so proud to have, you know, Dan, and it was a very different approach than say Matt, and
Sure,
and you would agree to this, like. Matt is this, like, he sort of looks the part.
Oh, yeah.
And he's super fucking talented.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
all these things that the kind of cook that people are like, God damn it, I'm not as good as him.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And
I was clearly never that person.
But I don't mean that. And
but
that's
it's
the beautiful
true.
thing
No,
about cooking.
I'm laughing at it. Look, I have plenty of confidence in myself.
Yeah.
I'm not, but I mean, you
I'm
could
the
be
same
more right.
way,
It's
you know?
very true. Like, I was not, that's what confused people. I think people liked me.
Was there at that time? I guess so. So they were grooming you for like months and months and
Yeah,
months
yeah.
to take the position. But was there like somebody else there that could have?
I think so.
Possibly.
I mean, when I was there,
There's
there
a
was
ton of
plenty
talent.
of people there who were super talented and also had like a command for the kitchen. I mean, those are like old school guys who like you looked at them and like they like people just straight up respected them because of their ability. Like, you know, like so for me that was probably the biggest issue was I think generally there was a lot of folks who thought those people should have gotten the job and were really confused by why I got the job.
So for those that are trying to, there's a lot of different cultural references I could pull, right? The most recent one I could pull is Top Gun 2, where Hangman thought he was going to go on the mission, and they went with Rooster.
Right. I mean,
You know,
yeah, that's
and that there were a lot of hangmen.
yes.
In
Several.
very good fucking all of that.
And these are people who literally went on like, you know, to run big restaurants like
super successful.
Yeah, right. And then they picked this fucking scrappy
And
guy.
they were like Rooster. So that was it. It was like they were choosing Rooster. But all
Times are changing, guys.
Hey, everyone likes Rooster's
Yeah.
the one you want.
But man, like
changing.
Renee saw it before anybody else, and I think he knew exactly what he wanted. And I remember thinking to myself, because I always think in Indiana Jones, Last Crusade, I was like, this guy's the cup of the carpenter. And I mean that.
God.
You're the fucking cup of the carpenter. You have always been. And what I love about cooking, right? And we're going to talk about all the different career paths you can have in this profession. But there's this bias sort of belief that gets perpetuated by media and by even me hypocritically. Like everybody does it unintentionally so sometimes, that there's this chef that's perfect and has the best skill. And like they're like Carmy and the Bear, who actually sort of sucks, you know, but this idea that you are this exact version of like this Thomas Keller
Right.
perfection, finesse.
Right.
You look the part, you act the part, you dress the part. And, you know, again, like I'll give you another reference that I think about all the time. Like this line by the late David Berman, all my favorite singers couldn't sing. And it's true. And what I have always admired about you, I was like, oh, you stick out because you're not like everybody else. And there are so many avenues to being successful
100%.
in this profession. And the road to being great is littered with those fucking guys that looked the part, that acted the part, because they just didn't have intangibles.
Yep.
And it was pretty clear, like immediately just working around you, like, oh, I don't know what's happening, but everything's better. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like Shane Battier, there's all these examples that I would think about or view. I was like, man, like, I don't know why, but when he's on the court, everybody plays better and they win. And as long as you win, who gives a fucking shit?
Oh, yeah.
And that's you.
I don't
always
care.
want to give you your flowers. Like, man,
Well,
like,
thank you. I appreciate
Dan
that.
Giusti, I think you sort of broke the mold in the most positive way for that restaurant at that time, because, and it was the genius move by Renee to be like, you know what, we need to change this up.
Yeah.
And we need a different level of integrity, and it's just a fresh approach. And for those that don't know, you were an award-winning chef in the Washington, D.C. area. What made you decide, be like, I gotta fucking go? I know we talked about this before.
Yeah, no, I think it's basically the reason I was award winning.
Wow.
I shouldn't have been. I mean, I think that's a whole other subject.
See, but that's the thing is, you say that you shouldn't have been. That's the thing. That's why you're the cup of the carpenter, my man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I was a pretty shitty chef, to be honest.
It's not humility when it's
we
true.
get some call-ins from diners of 1789 between the years of the, you know.
It's just facts.
I was the chef. I became the chef of 1789 when I was 23 years old, and I was there for 3 years. I tried to change the menu. When I started there, it was like rack of lamb, Caesar salad, creme brulee. That's what people wanted to eat. I was like,
They still want to eat.
they still wanted to eat.
Nothing's changed, man.
I changed all that shit. I was like, you know, we're gonna do this and whatever. You know, did my thing, got some recognition, and actually that's the most money that I made there. That's the most money I've ever made in my life. Still now. I don't pay myself that much money that they paid me to work as the chef of that restaurant.
Goddamn.
I got PR. I had a condo. I had a nice car. I had like a good life going, and that's when I realized it. Like, I was not happy. Because I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I didn't think I was doing a really good job. I didn't think the food was great. And I was like, I didn't have the confidence. I need to prove to myself that I could hang at a different level. So I literally just made a list of restaurants, and it was Alinea, Noma, and the Fat Duck, and I wrote to them, and then that's ultimately how I ended up in Noma.
Wow.
And then I saw that I could fucking hang.
Yeah, more than hang.
Yeah.
When you took the position at Noma, or maybe when you took the head chef position, how much were you thinking about what was going to come after that?
Not much. Not really. I mean, it's funny.
You were so fucking busy, dude.
You're too busy to think about it. But
you were so busy. Right?
I will say when I took that position, I was like half excited, half terrified. Filling in for Matt Orlando, the expectations were just huge, both from like a culinary level, but my job there wasn't to like come up with dishes, but even just to like uphold the standard. But then also to like know everything, like who the fucking people are and who are these people and who are those. But that was a big part of working there. I never thought about it. I mean, for me, for the longest time, it was like, this is where I'm going to be now. This is what I'm doing. I didn't think about anything else for years. In fact, I remember like getting close. It was one of the Mads, and Roy and Dan presented on Local, and that's when my mind was starting to think more of like just some different things. But I was like, I'm
Roy, Troy, Dan Patterson. You can actually probably watch that clip on YouTube. It's a good
It was
talk.
a great talk. And, I actually remember being at that Mad and I forget and being really upset because like, man, that's like, that was really inspiring to me. And that's what I want to do. I want to do something more along those lines. And that's not because I didn't like Noma. Like, I loved working there. Some people are like, "Oh, you got burned out from." I'm like, I didn't get burned out. I fucking dominated that shit, and I loved it.
No, he did.
Like, I played that shit like a fucking sport, man.
Dude, he's like fucking doing
like,
NBA Jam dunks.
Someone asked me the other day, like, well, actually, when I went there, because I went to Noma recently, and yeah, it's different now. But someone's like, "Do you think you could just go?" I was like, "Fucking, of course I could go right back in the kitchen."
Yeah, dude.
I fucking get after that. I love that shit. You know what I mean? Like, you either love it or you don't, and I really enjoyed it.
Were you thinking about leaving or considering leaving when you had that epiphany that like, I want to do something, I want to do,
Yes.
I'm inspired? You were already thinking about it.
I actually contacted him.
Yeah, we talked.
I have an email. I emailed him of all people. Like, I didn't even know you really well, to be honest. But I didn't know what to do, and I didn't.
The only time we really talked is if I was prepping out or working on something, and we would just like yell. Remember? I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah.
It's just like a funny joke.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny thing.
Like, more intense! That would be our joke.
Yeah,
I didn't even know him that well, but like I could just see how fucking intense he was, and I was like, yeah, more intensity!
Yeah, we really didn't know each other that well, and it's so funny.
But I could see it. It's eminent. He's like, we're going to fucking do this.
It was really, I mean, it got so intense at times where like, I remember like Renee would come in the kitchen, and like, he was known for, getting pretty intense himself, and he would come in and just walk out because I would be like fucking running around like a maniac.
And I would see this and be like, yeah!
I mean,
I love it!
I will say the year you ate at Mad with David Cho, we were rocking. I mean, I think they ate the meal in 10 minutes.
I was gonna say you had to because you was
This motherfucker, I tell this story all the time because this motherfucker was like, I'm looking at these guys. First of all, we're like checking this shit off the sheet, and we have like the row of like dishes we're sending out, and we're just like skipping shit. It was like whatever the fuck is ready, just send it to these guys. And I've said it to you all before, and I'll say it again because it's the funniest shit. Like we had that one dish was like a pike head on a stick, and this motherfucker like Tom and Jerry that shit like fucking right out of us. These guys had the Abel Skeeber was like at least 2 bites, 3 bites. These motherfuckers just swallowed it whole. Could see it go down his throat. And
I was just looking at him. I was
like, come on, motherfucker.
We're sitting in the corner.
More intense.
We're sitting at the
table
right corner.
Yes, just right there.
And I'm looking at Dan. Dan's looking at me. I'm like, Brigaid.
Yeah, it's like, like, come on, we're just fucking sending dessert. It's like halfway, whatever's ready, just send it to these assholes.
And I was like, you know what? We're gonna try to break this under an hour.
But do you know the flip side of that story, right?
I don't think so.
That Dave invited Cho to come to that dinner, and Cho thought you were.
Yo, he's going to Nobu. You don't know that? You don't know that? And we've digressed. But listen, there's individuals in this industry that you can have a connection with almost immediately, and it's not just because you were American, right? It was like a little bit, but like
it was actually the only reason.
I was like, you, that kitchen was under your thumb in the most positive way. And you ran that thing again, this is where if you're a civilian, you're not going to be like, intensity, that sounds terrible. It's like, no, this is fucking what you needed.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a beautiful thing to watch.
But I'll tell you what, at that time, with that team, our team there, we were intense. Things were said. People get upset. But, like, at the end of the day, like, we were all in it. Like, that time, it was, like, fucking rocking.
And I knew that it was you were ready to go after you reclaimed #1 ranking in the world. And I knew that was a thing that you wanted to get done. And when that was done, it was like, it's time for me to, like, go east like the fucking owls. Like, I'm out of here. And you left at the perfect time.
Yeah.
That's a good point, because I think so much of what if anybody follows you on social media, I think like your sort of consistent message is, if you're a cook, if you're a chef, if you're somebody who is a professional, why are you only considering the one path? Why aren't you considering feeding people in schools? Why aren't you considering feeding people much larger numbers of people than you would in a restaurant? Do you think you would have gotten there mentally if you had just been looking for a new thing after 1789? If you hadn't gone to Noma,
probably
if you
not
hadn't done that?
Me, no. I needed to have the confidence to do it. I don't think I would have been able to do that, and I think that's why we're trying hard now to like make it possible for other people who don't have that opportunity, because I think it's really hard. There's a stigma. It's just a stigma around success, and I always just use the very simple example. Like, if I was on the street and someone asked me what I do, and I say I'm a chef, and they ask me where I'm a chef, if I said I'm a chef in a school, they probably wouldn't think I'm a very good chef, and that's nothing wrong with them. That's just like
what we've been led to believe.
Or if I said I'm the chef of the best restaurant in the city, people would be like, "Oh shit, that's impressive," like.
So before we go any deeper, can you give? I mean, we haven't even done this. We just dove straight into it, but like, tell the people what Brigaid is, what the mission is.
Well,
you started this.
Hold on, I think this is crucial to a lot of people understanding why Brigaid is what it is.
Yeah.
And post the Mad Talk with you and Dan, because like with Dan and Roy, what was going through your mind as you started to marinate like what my next step is? Because people assume when you're there, your next step is, well, he's going to open up a next 3 Michelin-star restaurant. Sure. He's going to do this. He's going to move back to
Matt Orlando went and opened a mosque.
Yeah. What are you going? Everybody was like, wait, bated breath. I was like, what are you doing next?
Yeah. I think for me, when I was there, my eyes were open to a lot of things, one of which was like impact. And, obviously what we do now is very different than, say, what Noma does. But, I mean, they were impacting the way a lot of people thought about food, still are. And it was like a big deal. Like, Noma was a big deal. The way they operated was a big deal. And so for me, I was like, well, I'm not just going to, like, and I hate to say it this way, but, like, I wasn't just going to open a restaurant. And I didn't think I wasn't opening Noma. I wasn't going to open another Noma. I wanted to do something that was big, and I had the confidence to think about what am I doing this? What am I passionate about? And that was never like what I was really passionate. I would be lying if I said I was ever passionate about like fine dining. That's a lie.
Why did you work in fine dining?
Just to do it. Like from the day I stepped in a kitchen at Clyde's of Georgetown when I was 15, I fucking loved working in restaurants. I loved the atmosphere of working in a restaurant. Like I said, it was like playing a sport. And I'm an ambitious person, and the reason I got into fine dining in the first place was because I thought that's what you have to do if you're going to be successful. And I did it for a while, and I was competitive about it. And then I went to Noma, and I went there to prove myself, basically, and that was it. And I proved myself.
Yeah, you proved yourself. You won the World Series. You won the championship. Basically.
Yeah, I needed to do that. To answer your question again, I needed to do that to move beyond that. Like, I don't know. Like, if I never went there, I don't know like where I would have ended up.
So what was?
I almost fucking cried. August 28th, 2014. Do you mind if I read the email?
Read it.
Hey, Dave. First of all, thanks a lot for even thinking about this and giving me some words of advice. We just finished a phone call. I know you are very busy. I must start by saying that I am itching to do my own thing. For the past several months, I've been developing an idea that I am very excited about. The idea is basically for a place where someone could get a well-prepared, quick meal with local ingredients for a price comparable to that of other fast food establishments. Although I think the idea is very different from theirs, I could not help from being a little frustrated to hear Daniel and Roy announce their idea to improve the general quality of fast food with their new project. I, of course, really like both of those guys and believe that what they will do will be great, but all I could think is that my own opportunity is slipping away. I want to go big and feel that my idea can work in a big way. So seeing that made me think straight away that I need to get out of here to pursue my own goals. That's kind of what prompted me to contact you. I greatly respect you to do what you have accomplished, blah, 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 blah. You are very familiar with Renee and his ways and can probably more or less imagine my situation. In the end, the ideal situation is that someone would invest in my idea and I could begin to go to work ASAP. Until that is a reality, it would be probably foolish to put in my notice. I just feel sometimes that to put the time and effort to develop this idea and to find potential backers is a slow-going process when I'm working 16 hours a day. That's why I would consider going even before I have gotten any interest from anyone. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Your response was, bad idea. I mean, that's very raw, man.
But that was like originally the idea. It's funny. It's amazing to hear that email because that was the original idea before I thought of institutional food was like, how can I feed a lot of people and reach people that I wasn't reaching at the time? And originally it was like maybe it was fast food, maybe it was like fast casual. And I really did a lot of work on that and trying to figure out how that could work. And that's not.
And we have some private things that I won't share, but a lot of it was trying to find the right way to talk to Renee.
Yeah.
Because, we're very close and he loves you, and that was fucking hard.
Yeah. He loves you and it's hard for him to see people go.
But at the same time, this is also, you had this fucking thing you had to do. And I was just reading that other further emails. It was like, I gotta fucking do this. I gotta do this now.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty. I mean, I kind of underplayed it a bit. I was crying at Mad. Like when I saw them, I was pretty. I think at the time it was you work hard there. It was emotional time in general, always kind of. And I remember just being really upset. I was like, "Fuck, that's it.
My thing.
That's they're gonna do this." And not to say that it should be about who does that thing first, because it's feeding people that need it. It's feeding people that need it. But I think for me, like I said in that email, it's kind of man, they're doing it. They're in the position to do it, and I'm here.
So it wasn't like you watched us talk and you were inspired, oh, I'm gonna go do something important. It was you felt this sense of urgency, I gotta do something. I gotta fucking do something.
But the thing is, I get a lot of emails over the years and a lot of advice things, and a lot of them was I gotta be fucking a 3 Michelin star chef. I gotta win this. I gotta do that. It was the first time I was I gotta do something meaningful.
Yeah.
And I feel I gotta make a positive impact. And I was like, what the fuck? I don't know what that,
you had this realization, Chang, I feel at a certain point where you can have blinders on when you're in this world, in the Nomos, there's not a Nomo world, but the world of ambitious restaurants where you're this is the most important thing. I'm feeding all these people. I remember starting to have conversations with you at some point where you were fuck, when you look at this, we don't feed anybody.
It's so dumb.
We don't feed anybody.
We think we feed everybody. We feed nobody.
It's we put the people who feed the least people on and the most expensive food on a pedestal, and the people who feed the most the least expensive food are scum of the earth, and it's kind of it makes no sense.
And I will just say it, a disdain for somebody that has not fit those typical features you want from a chef.
No, right, and I'll tell you what, there was a point I think where after I left Noma where it was really I think we need to change the way people. Now, in my mind, very clearly, I am way more impressed by different things. It's not about oh, chefs who work in high volume should be respected. It's no, I have more respect for them. I actually think it's harder. Seeing chefs that before I looked at with such I was reverence, and I'm you run a restaurant. You run a restaurant. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna say I'm not the most talented guy in the world, but I'm pretty sure I could open a restaurant and fucking get 3 Michelin stars. I feel pretty confident I could do that.
I know that's.
I fucking believe it, dude.
I'm not saying I don't know if the food would be that good, but I also don't think the food needs to be that good. I'm pretty sure there's I could write a fucking plan and get after it and do it.
Some real talk.
It's true. Though. I'm not. I wouldn't. To me, that doesn't sound that hard.
You know what the formula is.
I don't look. You guys see what I post on social media. I know people get upset with me sometimes, but I think it's. The Michelin thing, the awards thing. I mean, I don't know.
Shoot it straight, man. We need it.
I just think that the only reason it's hard for people to get those awards is because they're so caught up in their own shit. Like, if they just really wanted to get 3 Michelin stars, like, just get it, man. Like, it's not that fucking hard. Like, just do some stupid shit and get 3 Michelin stars. Instead of like, well, I got to do it this way and I got to do this thing. And like, okay.
All
like,
those parts are ego.
That's what I mean. It's all ego. Everybody's caught up in ego. So like,
but what you're also trying to say, for just to translate it for somebody that might be listening, like, I am trying, because I guarantee you, chefs will be like, "Fuck you, Dan Giusti."
Great.
But I think what you are trying to say as the Dan Giusti translator is like, find your fucking voice.
Yeah, like, I mean, that people have said plenty of that stuff to me, and like, that's great. Like, I said it the other day that I thought the James Beard Awards is like the dumbest shit ever, and it's like, and I had a bunch of people come at me like in my DMs, like, this is ridiculous, or I have friends, who are like, well. And I just think all these, the way it is. I mean, the 50 best is the same way. It's like, you got to everybody just gets the awards, so they keep interest. Well, otherwise, it becomes like nobody wants to root for awards. Like, if you've won one, you're like, it's important.
Well, your thing with the James Beard Awards was basically, it's a bunch of lip service. Like, we want to do impact. We want to have an impact on our community. We want to do X, Y, or Z.
That I didn't like. That was the thing, because someone sent me, I don't even know how I ended up with it, but somebody sent me their mission statement. I thought it was a joke. I was like, how is this your mission statement? Just say your restaurant awards.
Yeah.
Don't even mention food service.
Yeah.
Because your scope of food service is very narrow. There's much more food service than just restaurants.
Yeah.
And I didn't really particularly like that. And then to talk about community impact and all these things, I just thought that was a little ridiculous.
Listen, we've talked about it a lot. Having been in that room, I think that it is a lot of like, oh, we need to say this. We need to flex this thing. But to your point, it is, put your money where your mouth is then.
I just
you want to have
they
impact.
can't, because they need sponsors.
But
put the sponsor's money where your mouth is.
But the other thing is, I also don't like the fact that I go to restaurants that are really, really fucking good and should be getting awards, and they don't.
Right.
Why? Well, maybe they're not trendy enough. Maybe they don't have PR. Maybe they already won a lot of awards, so now they can't keep winning awards. Like, let's be realistic. If like these awards were real, the same fucking people would win the awards over and over and over and over again. They would.
Yeah.
Is it like every year there's a new chef in a new restaurant that's that good? Fuck no. That's a joke. I'm sorry, but that's a little ridiculous.
I'm so happy right now.
I mean, it's like, and people get mad at me for saying this, and I'm like, come on, like, just everybody knows this. Everybody. But if you're in the restaurant business, you can't say these things, because if you say them, then you're not going to win something, and you want to win it. And that's
Aren't you
a shame.
so looking forward to not being in the restaurant business? Also, you could do this.
When I'm fully out, holy fuck, this is giving me so much inspiration.
So, obviously, we love Dan. You've been on the show before. You have those emails. You know what else I have? I just realized I have recordings of all of our weird pandemic conversations that we can release someday too. You've been on the show. You left Noma to start Brigade.
Yep.
The sort of thesis statement, if I can paraphrase, is basically like the abilities, the skills, the sort of mentality of make it happen, make every last cent count in a restaurant could be applied beneficially to places like schools that have limited amounts of money to feed kids, to feed anybody who just needs to eat.
Yeah.
And you started in New London in the public school system. You one school at a time, I think. We're just sort of taking over the food system, taking the existing budget, which was like roughly what?
That was $1.25 then.
$1.25 a student for a meal, to do something, wholesome, real cooking with what was happening there, redo the kitchen. How much of the mission has changed? How much of your thinking has changed in the, how many years now?
It's almost 10.
10 years that you've been doing this now.
That's crazy.
Like you said, you don't think that school or like cafeteria cooks need to be respected on the same level as fine dining cooks. You've since come to be like, they need even more, even more. What else has changed?
I mean, for me, I think the biggest thing because I think my approach to the work we do, like chefs having a place in these spaces, like it's common sense. Like it's a food service program, so you should have chefs. Like that was always the impetus to start Brigade, so that has never changed. The model really hasn't changed much. I think the biggest thing that changed from the very beginning, that changed pretty soon after we started, was like, I'm quoted saying it somewhere in some interview of like, I really want to be a part of like changing the way like a generation thinks about food. And like, I swear to God, my outlook on food has changed more than anyone I've talked to. Mm-hmm. Because I was caught up. I thought we were gonna, I thought I knew what was right. and I'm going to go around and fucking tell people what's, we're going to inspire people to think differently about food. But instead, I started thinking differently about food. And I think that is the biggest change.
Did I ever tell you that story of when I was handing out turkeys for Christmas for a food bank in New York? And like at that time, it's all slow food. It's all organic.
Right.
And they had me give a whole talk about proper nutrition, whatever the fuck it was. All I remember is a woman with 4 kids comes up and she's like, literally like, just give me my fucking turkey.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course.
I don't need the talk.
No, but it was bullshit because it's like,
Yeah.
if you had less than 4 kids, you got a chicken. And she's like, I don't give a shit about organic, whatever. It's
Right.
like, I'm feeding my kids.
Right.
Shut the fuck
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
And I was like, that day, I was like, oh, I don't know fucking shit.
I mean, we're in a world where, like, in the world that I work in now with Brigade, there are a lot of other organizations that are in our space, and they all would agree that like school food needs to be better. But when you zoom in, they're very prescriptive in terms of what that should be.
What better means?
Like, what does better mean? What is good food? What are these things? And we're not. Like, we don't do that. Like, we work with people and we say, like, what do you want to achieve with your food? And we're chefs, we're going to help you do that. We don't say it needs to be local. We don't say it needs to be organic. Are those things great? Yeah, they're great. And of course, we have those values. Like we appreciate those things. They're very important. But like leading with that in terms of your program being like at the end of the day, when you're feeding a kid, yeah, would it be amazing to feed them organic, local, seasonal food? Yeah, that would be amazing. But if they don't like it, they don't like it. And they're not going to be more interested in it because it's local and seasonal. They're not. They don't give a shit. If it's good, then you might be able to slip that in and say, well, it's good because it's a local apple. And they'll be like, oh, shit, like, okay, that makes sense. But trying to tell someone this is, like, I feel like in fine dining, it's the worst. Like, everyone is just caught up. Everyone's caught up. Guests are caught up. People in the kitchen are caught up. I mean, I remember one day at Noma, Renee being like, is this shit even good that we're doing here? He said that. And because Renee's a smart guy. And he was like, because it's easy. It's easy. Everybody's, we do this thing and we get this ingredient and we do this process. And it's like, yeah, but it's not really good. And then on the contrary, you have food that's like, it's like almost commodity goods, like, run-of-the-mill produce, run-of-the-mill proteins, and it's prepared really well. And like people are like, yeah, but like the ingredients aren't super special. And it's like, it's crazy to me. It's very backwards.
So obviously, a lot of your social media, a lot of your messaging is about kind of, let me say, like recruiting people to the cause.
Yeah.
Can we do a little exercise here? Just I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's maybe a professional cook already.
Yeah.
Maybe a young Dan Giusti before you've taken the head chef positions in DC.
Handsome guy.
A handsome, young, strapping lad.
God.
Just like fighting the ladies off with a stick.
Check out my red sauce.
Check out my red sauce. I got my Zia's tomatoes.
Yeah.
I'm reading your posts, and let's say I got this question first. In the 10 years you've been doing Brigade, have there been moments where you're like, you look longingly back at the other side, and you're like, man, I do wish I was back.
Not once.
Not even once.
Not one time. I will say that like there have been a couple times I've still a few friends, of course, who work in restaurants where I did like a dinner or something. I was in the kitchen. I fucking
Mr. Intensity's
fucking
back.
getting after it, fucking juking. I probably fucking tear my Achilles tendon now if I try to do that shit. But,
Not once.
But not once. Not once. Like I can honestly say that. Like I love what I do, and like I said, it's not only that I love what I do, and it's not about just like the reward. It's literally, I just think it's so much more important. So much more important, and because it's so much more important to me, it's that much more exciting and that much more interesting that I would never consider doing any. It just doesn't even make sense. It does not interest me for a second. It's not even about like the hours or like running a restaurant. It's not about that at all. It just literally doesn't interest me for a second. Like we interview plenty of people that are not that young. But they still have that in them. You can
Why
feel
are you
it.
ages, Chris?
Yeah, we can't talk like this,
Yeah.
Chris. Like one question I
HR
asked.
hot on this guy.
I'm ageist against young people. I'll be on the record about that.
With younger people, it's hard, especially with this role. But like today, we did interviews today. We interviewed 2 candidates. They were both great. And when we have candidates that do a really good job, one of the last questions I asked them was like, okay, because one of the things they have to do is prepare a meal from scratch within all the guidelines, and they have to do it for $1.50. And they both did a really good job, and it was just really cool, nice school lunch. Like, okay, great. Like, so you're interested in this, but not all the food, and like, there's not one school district we work in that everything's made from scratch. So some of the stuff's like literally a heat and serve item in a bag. Some of it's a sandwich. And my question to them is like, you can get excited about this, but can you get excited and put what you know into making sure that this heat and serve item is heated up properly? I don't need you to be like cheering about it, but it is a kid's lunch and it needs to be right, and you're the chef who's coming on board. Or if you're making a sandwich, can you make sure? And I don't know, we get a lot of answers that aren't super convincing sometimes. You know, that people say, oh, yeah, I can do that. And it's like,
funny because that translates in some ways directly to certain kind. You know, I remember going to a restaurant here in LA where I was like, "There's a kids menu." I was like, "Are your kids' buttered noodles hand cut noodles?" Like,
right?
Because there's things you can write off as just like, I have to do this because it's a part of the job.
It's just to me, it's so, I don't know. It's like there's so much silly shit out there that just doesn't make any sense.
Hey Dan, for people that are watching, and we do have a lot of cooks still watching, and if they're thinking like, as Chris was describing, but they're not young, they're not old, they're just themselves.
Fuck.
You know, everybody's accepted, and they're like, hey, I've heard about this Dan Giusti guy. I thought, you know, I want to make a change. I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm tired of feeding these fucking rich motherfuckers sauce on the side. Fuck you. I want to do something different. What can I get? What is the benefit? If I'm like, can I apply for a chef job at a school or hospital? Well, what's going on here? And give them the comps. Like, what can they make?
Yeah. I mean, just to put it in perspective, I mean, we are hiring 20, 30. I mean, that's not that many, but still we have a hard time finding people. So there's a lot of jobs out there where I think one thing you get from it is you learn a different skill set. I think being in a restaurant where you're working, 500 covers a night is not high volume. It's not. Even 1,000. I worked, when I was at Clyde's, we would do 5,000 people in a day. Now, that was pretty high volume, but it still doesn't compare.
He worked. This restaurant group is like the.
It's actually pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
5,000 a day.
No, we had a brunch when I was at the Old Ebbitt Grill. We had a brunch. We had brunches that we would have over $100,000 in revenue one day, Sundays.
You worked Old Ebbitt Grill
when I was 19. Listen to this. This is where it came from. I used to expedite at Old Ebbitt Grill when I was 19, and we had the screens. I was like, bah, bah, bah. Like it would be like fucking. It was always this thing. Not to cover the tangent, but like it was a screen, and basically at certain times they would turn yellow if it was too long, and then it would turn red. And then you could see how many pages back of screens there were. And I think the record was like 30 pages of tickets because it would get so fucking busy. That place is a machine.
Real life Overcooked.
But this restaurant is an institution.
Yeah.
It is massive. So many seats.
It's like the 6th highest grossing restaurant in the United States.
How many seats?
It's only like 600 seats. It's not that many. But they do. But they're open.
They're
open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Tourists.
The restaurant opens at like 7 in the morning and they close at 2.
Yeah.
You go in there. You could go into the Old Ebbitt Grill. I was there like not long ago. I was sitting at the bar on like a Tuesday night at 12:30, and first of all, they have like half price oysters, and that oyster bar cranks. So you got all these people eating oysters, people eating cheeseburgers, a guy eating a bowl of rigatoni. Like this is at 12:30 at night, and the bar is packed. One of 4 of them. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a machine. And honestly, I credit a lot of, like, talk about, like, my experience of working at Clyde's and Clyde's Restaurant Group. Like, people want to talk shit about that place or that group. Or, like, I learned more. I worked there for 10 years out of my 20 years. So out of my 20 years of working in restaurants, 10 years was for Clyde's Restaurant Group, and 4 was the head chef of Noma. Just saying.
Everyone wants to talk about fucking Noma. Everyone wants to talk about Clyde, man.
If you're from the D.C. area, you know.
Yeah, but people knock on Clyde's, though. And like,
why would they? It's fucking great.
So isn't the message, so forgive me, but it doesn't seem like an easy sell to say, hey, if you're working at a restaurant like that, a high volume restaurant like Clyde's,
so hard.
You're doing brunch service, you're shucking oysters like crazy. Wouldn't you rather apply those same skills like feeding kids?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that people don't know what it entails. I do think that people can't get away from, like, it's really the ingredient thing. That's the thing that kills people. Like, working with, like, you know, frozen foods, canned foods, heat and serve items, like that's the thing. Like, they have to be like, that's so ingrained in people that they can't. And honestly, we, like, this day too, like, a lot of people don't even really know how to cook, or like high volume, forget about it. Like, people don't even like know how to like cook in a pan. Like, a lot of people haven't been on like a line where like there's pans and you're cooking.
Fuck pans. They don't never cooked in a tilt skillet before.
Oh yeah, that shit. I mean, I'm telling you, like, just to go back to Clyde's, I think the hardest station I ever worked in my life, I was 16 years old. I worked brunch. I worked the grill station for brunch at Clyde's of Georgetown, which is like gets fucking pounded on M Street. It was a grill this big with 2 4-inch hotel pans filled with water. And my job was to fucking do cheeseburgers to order, to temperature, different cheeses, and eggs Benedict. So I would poach eggs in the water. I'd have to toast English muffins and buns, and everything was to fucking temperature. And that shit, the tickets used to, like, literally would hit the ground. It wasn't a joke. And I would just sink. I'm not even going to claim like I did it. They would have to come and get me off that shit every Saturday. I think they got a kick out of it.
Nobody can pull that off, dude.
But like those experiences, and like to answer your question, like there are so many benefits of working in a different environment. Even if it's not what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Like, why would you work in a restaurant your whole life? Like, there's so many other things to learn.
Well, I was going to say, Chang, I
love Dan.
I imagine if you were looking at resumes for a chef who was applying to work for you in your group, if you saw Brigade on that
If I was still hiring?
Yeah, if you were in that position, wouldn't you see Brigade and be like, oh, fuck, I have to take this person seriously?
Of course, but not only that, like, I would say just in general, when I was still looking at resumes on the day-to-day basis, I was actually getting rid of the ones that had the best, I was like, they didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's like they're not cooking. They're coming in at 2:00. Prep's already done. They don't know how to break down anything. They know how to assemble.
Or they all know how to do the smallest piece.
Right.
And that's why, like, I tell people now, like, for example, I'm on this thing about like culinary school versus not culinary school. And it's like, if I didn't go to culinary school, I would go work for a restaurant like a Clyde's Restaurant Group, because you see a ton. You do everything from kind of start to finish, like a high volume place that does pretty much everything on their own. But you see it all. If you go work in a fine dining restaurant, you get put off into some little thing. You're usually doing if it's a big fine dining restaurant, even if it's a small fine dining restaurant, I don't know, like the scope of what you're going to learn is so narrow.
I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I'm surprised that we've never really talked about.
Like, go work in a Clyde's. Yeah. Go, like, I learned how to make chili. I learned how to make French onion soup. I learned how to make burgers. I learned how to make crab cakes. I learned how to cook to temperature, and really learn how to cook to temperature, because I used to cook fucking 500 fucking burgers in 2 hours. I used to get the shit kicked out of me. Talk about volume. I was just sinking, but it's a lot of volume. I probably did more volume before I went to culinary school than most people do in their career. Because I worked at Clyde's for 4 years before I even went to culinary. And no one talks about that kind of stuff, and that's a real shame.
But having different forms of cooking and just seeing it and being part of it in different kitchen cultures, and it's so important.
And I will say the professional aspect of it. One thing that we see a lot of is, and it's really disappointing, and it's a thing I take a lot of pride in, is we try to provide a lot of professional development to our team. A lot of folks coming out of restaurants, including myself, like communication skills, writing an email, one giant paragraph. Like, like these folks are not, no one's taking the time with them to make them into professionals.
Right.
And that's why, again, we talk about being successful and looking at a chef and being like, wow. Like you talked about, like people looking at Thomas Keller. Like I don't look at people like that, like, wow. I look at people like, you see some people run like big organizations and they're organized and they're like fucking, those are the people I'm like, wow, that's really impressive. They're thinking through all the details. They can't just do whatever they want. Like the chefs that can do whatever they want, how's that impressive?
Right.
If you have to figure out like where you have to make concessions and because you're working at volume or scale or you're feeding a diverse group of people, that's impressive.
I mean, the most impressive chef I've seen in a long time was still the guy that did the original menu at Real Sports in Toronto. I love that place. They do like 5,000 people a day.
Yeah, it's
and
ton.
He developed everything and all the operations.
Crazy.
And you just watch that and you're like, that is more impossible to do than just about anything else on an ambitious restaurant scale. Like, as a comp, the way I try to sort of explain this, and any kind of food where you're trying to feed masses of people and doing it at high volume, and I'm thinking of high volume is literally like, you're like, that's nothing at all. But I'm saying, like, if you're doing a restaurant, they're doing like 500 to 1,000 people. That's a lot for most people. But that's the equivalent of trying to make a Indiana Jones, a really good movie that a lot of people are going to want to watch.
Right. Yeah.
But it's so hard to do.
Yeah,
it's not easy to make action adventure movie.
That's so much harder. I mean, making food. First of all, half these restaurants making food that nobody has any comparison to. They just go there and they eat it and they're like, wow, that's great. And it's like, I have nothing to compare it to. Versus like going to get a slice of pizza and you're like, well, I've eaten pizza a million fucking times and this is like mediocre. Like, making good things for large groups of people and where they can compare it to all kinds of stuff, wings, these kinds of things. That's why I like Clyde's again. Like, to be a restaurant group that's been there since the mid 60s to now and be that successful serving burgers, crab cakes in the Mid-Atlantic in Washington, D.C., you need to have your shit together. And it's not like, look, I'm all for, like, I've just never been that type, like the more artistic type when it comes to food. But I think it's much harder to cook food for people that, that's a little more normal.
I actually, hearing you talk about this, I actually think, funnily enough, the best selling point for anybody you're trying to convince to work for Brigade, I'm imagining cooks of all ages who are ambitious, who maybe are like, I'm not ready to do that. I still have ambitions. I still want to scratch the itch of the Nomas, of the fine dining worlds. There's actually no better case than to look at, it's not about your Noma resume. It's to be like, you don't think doing this can get you there? This motherfucker worked at Clyde's and became the head chef of Noma.
That's true.
When I found out that you were there, you worked at the Clyde's group and you were 17, and I was like, that's why he's crushing. I was like,
that is why he's crushing at Noma.
People are like, where'd you work before? I was like, Clyde, Georgetown.
I just want to reiterate that if you're somebody who thinks like someday the peak of the mountaintop would be the head chef of Noma, you worked doing eggs Benedict and burgers for thousands to get to Noma.
To be fair, and I say this because I'm a hardworking person. I know I'm pretty smart, but I'm not like, I'm not the most talented person. Like, I just don't. Like, it's just not that fucking hard. Like, if you want to go do it and you have a good head on your shoulders, you can do this shit. Like, it's not, like, that's why I just don't see what the big deal is.
Yeah, I just want to stress to people that might be like, I don't understand this dichotomy of somebody that says they're not talented and they're not good, but they've just expressed very clearly and confidently that I can get 3 Michelin stars. It makes total sense, but it's like so hard. How do you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, I one thing I'll use to describe is I see restaurants now that are open for a year and they get 3 Michelin stars. Like, that doesn't seem that hard. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to do something now that we'll probably won't achieve forever. That's fucking hard. Like, if you can get 3 Michelin stars in a year, it can't be that fucking hard. Like, this is how I say it. Look, it's hard to find good people out there. So you can be a super talented chef. But to have a 3 Michelin star restaurant, you need, if it was that hard, and in a year you can develop and have that great of a team in place, no, fuck no. That's bullshit. I don't believe, you know what I mean? Like, come on. You know what I'm saying, though? But is that not true? I mean, come on. Like, I'm just saying it can't be that hard.
Burn it all down, Dan.
Spit and fire. More.
Burn it all down, man.
I see this stuff, and I'm like, as someone who's led a large team and how hard, like, in a kitchen, and how hard that is, and like and Noma, half those fucking people we had were there for 5-6 years. And it's still really hard to be like perfect every fucking day. And then now you just have people, you're throwing people bones because you gotta stir up the interest. Mm-hmm. You gotta give out Michelin stars because especially here in the United States, nobody fucking cares. Like, no one's gonna care about it. So you gotta give them out. Because if you don't, if I was a chef listening to this, I'd be like, shit, I gotta fucking go do something bigger. That's what my motivation would be. Right. And most people will hear me saying this and be like, well, fuck that guy. And that's fine.
Well, listen, if you want to, we talk about this a lot. Like, if I was starting out today, no one would give a shit. I was just right place, right time. The ability to make an impact in food, especially in fine dining, is damn near impossible. You will never be the Ferran Adria that has the Moonfall. Just like today's painters will never be Pablo Picasso.
Sure,
it's just not going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
Not a chance. You might be a Jeff Koons. You might be someone that's loved, but you're not going to change the game like the forefathers did.
Right.
And that's just the truth. And it's not because you're not better. You're probably way fucking better.
Yeah.
But if you want to make a mark, it's not going to be in the world of high-end dining.
I think there's
It'll be doing Brigade or something else.
That's what I mean. Like, that's what I was saying. When I left Nome, I was like, I was finally a part of something that I was like, wow, this is like a big thing I'm a part of. And I had never been a part of anything like that. And I didn't want to not do that. So in my mind, and it might sound crazy, like I'm still doing it here 9 years later, and I'm like, but for me, like the goal is just like huge, change everything.
This is interesting.
That's the fucking goal. Like I don't want to like strike down people's dreams.
No, but what you're saying is really interesting. You're saying if your dream is to get 3 Michelin stars or run a fine dining restaurant, dream bigger than that.
Pretty much,
Think bigger than that. Why is that the top of your dreams?
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, and like that's why I don't like the fact that that's how we again determine success. Because for me, you show me a bunch of 3 Michelin star chefs, I'm like, that's awesome, good for you guys. Like that's great. Like that's an accomplishment. Am I like really impressed by that? No. And is that because I think I'm a better chef? No. That's not because I think I'm a better chef. Not even close. It's just because it's not that. To me, it's not that impressive. And I don't know, like, let's compare, like, sports, for example. Everybody knows sports. Like, you're not going to compare, like, it's probably harder to win an NBA championship than it is to fucking get 3 Michelin stars. So let's look at it that way. It's probably way fucking harder if you really think about it. So why the fuck do we make such a big deal about getting 3? If it's the top of the space of a chef, do we look at chefs at a lower level than we look at athletes? We shouldn't.
One of the reasons why, at least, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think many of our friends are still doing this. I guess I'm still part of still doing it, but not on a day-to-day basis. But it's hard in that realm. But the hardest thing by far, if you want to get that ambition of multi-stars and rankings of the top 50, is fucking money.
Yeah.
You need... You can't get it without the fucking.
But that's what I'm
backing.
saying. I mean, one thing is to talk about like the difficulty of getting it, but like that's like to me arbitrary because it's not about like the harder you work, the more talented you are, you get 3 Michelin stars. That's not. It doesn't correlate. It's just like a lot of other factors that people get these awards, and you can't quantify the difficulty of that. Like just saying it's difficult to get 3 Michelin stars is very hard for me to say because there's probably many restaurants out there that should have 3 Michelin stars that don't, and there's probably many that have it that shouldn't.
Well,
and who's to say, like, you know what I mean? It's just
there's
kind of
a blueprint for that, or there's no blueprint for. I mean, like what you were talking about with what you started, with Renee started with Brigade. What makes those things challenging is like there is no blueprint for this thing. And like, if you want to succeed and make an impact, you got to do something where there
you got to
isn't
do
a
something
map
different.
for it.
That's what I'm saying. But back to the idea of like chefs, like we obviously are saying that. Like the way we look at chefs is the top of the top is to be a 3 Michelin star. That's all we got. That's all we got as chefs. That's all we. That's it.
We need a new award.
3 Michelin stars. I'm the top. That's to me sad to think that is our industry. That is the top of the top.
For any of these listeners who maybe aren't in the industry, aren't part of this, but latched on to something you said earlier, where you said it's $1.25 per kid per meal. I want to make sure we're addressing this a little bit. You said like one of the big obstacles to recruiting new chefs is I don't want to work with these resources. I don't want to work with $1.25 per kid.
Yep.
Do you spend any time being upset or wishing those resources were more plentiful?
Yeah, of course it would be. I think that's what the kids deserve. Not from the perspective of like to feed my own desire of creativity.
But $1.25 sounds like fucking.
So now it's like
enough.
so that was then. Now it's like $1. It's $1.50. It's not a lot. So it's like $1 just to be accurate. Now it's like $1.50 to $1.75. But yeah, it's nothing. I mean, we're talking about like if we're using chicken in most cases, it's like the only speculation is like antibiotic free. There's nothing, no other adjectives. You know, we're very low adjective in our ingredient selection. We don't have like this, that, and the other thing. Carrot. It's just like it's a carrot. It's just a carrot, and that's what it is. And a lot of people don't want to deal with that. You know.
You know, before you came on, we were talking about 25 things, and I'll just give a teaser as to another thing that I would say top 25. And I have a long, weird, crazy history with Chipotle, but people have asked, like, what's the most significant thing you think that's happened in food? And I was like, well, to be objective, I was like, well, I think when Chipotle went to like better chickens,
Yeah.
that was
Huge.
the biggest change the
Huge.
food world has ever seen in America.
I mean, to be honest, like those fast casual places and some of the things that they're achieving are so impressive to me. And like, I know we'll talk a little bit more about it, but like this event we're having this summer, like one of the guys, he's a buddy of mine, Chad. He's the head chef for Sweetgreen now. He was the head chef at Burger King before. He was the head chef at Chipotle before. And I just think like and before that, he worked for Daniel Boulud and had like a crazy.
I was just giving
like
before that, he was the sous chef at Osteria Francescana.
But he's actually like, to me, that's like awesome. Like the things he's thinking about, like I'm so excited to hear him talk about like what he's thinking about, because that's like really cool. Yeah. And he's not concerned about certain things and he's concerned about other things. And I just think that like we need more of that. Like that is really cool. And that's impressive to me. Like he's one person who probably no one's ever heard of. And like when I asked him to speak,
well, how many Michelin stars does he have?
Yeah. And like, it's just sad to me. Like that's the kind of guy who's like cool, you know. I look at a ton of resumes. I am still heavily involved. Like that's why I'm here. I'm involved. Our in-person interviews, I think I've only missed like 2 of them out of a lot over the last 10 years. And I look at a lot of resumes, and you see a lot of we've plenty of people who've spent a year at this restaurant and a year at this restaurant, and they suck. Like it's shocking. To the point where they come and cook in a school kitchen, and the food service director of the school district, who does not have a lot of interaction with chefs, is kind of like what's going on here? Thanks. Like the way they move and the way they do things, and it's like this is the state of things. This is another thing why I get so frustrated about this, because clearly this award system and whatever's motivating people to move forward is not working for the development of people. It's not. They're not getting the skills they need. They're not getting trained. Because they're not focused on that. All they're focused on is getting fucking awards. Yeah. All they're focused on is getting PR. Half these chefs aren't even in their fucking restaurants. Yeah. Like I see these people who open restaurants. They're not like big celebrities. They're like people who just like run a restaurant. You know, they got some stupid award in a magazine, but they're not like big chefs. No, but what I'm saying is they're not like owner. They're not like you who like has, you know, other things going on. But they're like at this event, in that event, in this event. They're like never in the restaurant. Like, what are you fucking doing? Who's in your restaurant? Who runs the restaurant? And then you never hear.
Me too.
Then you never hear about that person. You know,
he's like, not you, Dave.
No. But I'm saying that not like proper, because I understand. Like, if you're like a proper celebrity chef, like you do other things. But these are people who literally. And then the other thing, you know, like everybody now, like I don't know, I don't want to get into this subject, but I was just gonna say now it's like the way people treat. Like, there are a lot of chefs who. As chefs, I ask myself, what is the basis now of them being a chef? If you're going to call yourself a chef, what is the basis of that? What do you do?
Right.
There's a lot of that now. If you call yourself a chef, what is the basis of that? Because I see you on TV. Back to this whole idea of the Michelin stars and this, like our idea of like that shining, like, wow, like we started with this conversation with that, of like looking at that person, it's wrong. It's not right. And I'm not saying it's me. I'm not, but it's not Dan, right. You know?
Dan, can I add, not as a counterpoint, maybe you can't see this until you've done the other shit.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It's quite possible.
There's no way.
It's quite possible.
You know, like, there's no way I could have ever have been critical of the guys that I think about now, or the restaurants. There's just no way.
Yep.
Everything was the Holy Bible in terms of what they would say and what they would do, and I would follow everything meticulously until you get to know them, until you start to see everything. You're like, and you have a voice, you've developed, you're like, well, why did I like that?
Yeah.
It's like liking a band when you were younger. Like, why did I like, you know, Chris was a huge New Kids on the Block fan. I was like, why did I like New Kids on the Block?
Still do.
Last year.
I just say, if you're listening, it's part of it is you're going to be on your own journey, and maybe working at Brigade should be at the top of your list. But I think more than anything, having range, seeing a variety of things, you know, like see different kinds of cooking.
Well, I think people should be more focused on themselves learning than padding their resume. Like, that's the problem. People are more concerned about what their resume is going to look like versus like making smart decisions as to developing themselves. And I would even say that even if your goal is to be a fine dining chef, per my experience, like working at Clyde's Restaurant Group for 10 years was really helpful. And I just think that everyone's so concerned about their resume, they're not really looking at themselves. Like, where are you going to go where someone's actually going to pay attention to you and help you learn and move you around and not just – that's what you should be looking for, because it's the opposite side of the coin is literally you're going to restaurants that look great and you never learned anything there. It's the worst case scenario. You show up and people are like, well, you worked here, but you don't know anything.
Would you say maybe the right place? Well, the thing is, Dan, like your tolerance for pain –
it's high.
So high.
It's
right?
very high.
And I don't know if people understand when you see
You see
tickets,
it? You see it? Look at me in the eyes.
I don't even have tolerance to look at you right now.
You see it?
you know,
Can we do a little role play? Like we're in a restaurant?
you say it jokingly, like, "Oh man, there's 30 screens of tables and tickets, and I'm working the hamburger eggs Benny station, and I can hear the ticket hit the floor." That sounds almost romantic, right?
I know.
It does. But I had a lot of anxiety just hearing that and feeling. I was like, whew,
yeah,
like that is
a
suffocation.
Yeah.
And specific on a person is like, yes, I need that.
Right.
That makes me feel alive. And more importantly, like, I got to get better at this. I just got pummeled. Tomorrow I'm going to get pummeled a little less.
Well, I think that's another thing about like this industry is it is hard, and I think there's a lot of people who choose to be in it and then choose to complain about it. Like I'm not condoning certain types of behaviors and certain atmospheres. I'm not condoning that, but I also hear a lot of people like, "Oh, I don't get paid enough." Well, then why the fuck did you take this job?
I say that.
Like, just go do something else, or like all this stuff about like, well, this person went here and worked for free. You fucking chose to do that. You can do whatever you want. I don't support that for a second. And the restaurant industry is always going to be hard, and it's not because of the fucking tyrant chef. It's because of the media. It's because of the way these people get torn down. That's, to me, it's all the outside. For me, when I was at Noma, I was terrified. It was like every day the amount of people and scrutiny that was coming to that restaurant on Instagram. That's the people writing reviews, these stupid fucking awards that mean nothing. That's the shit that fucks you up. And people, like we could talk about food writers. 22-year-old food writer knows dick about anything, is writing stuff down that's impacting people's livelihoods. And we're like, oh shit, like that's a shame. That's a real shame. And that's what's happening. Again, I don't understand. Like I say a lot of this too because I have a lot of respect for chefs and I wish they would just snap the fuck out of it. How could you live your life showing up every day, leading a restaurant, and you're at like you're kind of at the mercy of some of these fucking scumbag people who write? They don't care about you. They don't care about anybody. They just want to get a rise out of people who read that shit. If I was a chef in a restaurant, I would fucking go nuts. I remember being at Noma, like the stress levels were so high. I always looked at it like it was the people who came into that restaurant and they were posting about it, or they were the Michelin guide, or it was a 50 best voter. And these people walk around like they're God's gift to earth. That's the problem. Like why? The
restaurant industry is hard enough. You don't need that extra pressure.
You don't need that. And I think to make matters worse, those awards, as we talked about at length, are not accurate. So like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, what is the point of all this shit? If I was a chef listening to this, I'd be like, yeah, what are we doing? And it takes a chef who's at the top to be like, yeah, this is stupid. And to be like, no. But nobody does it. Nobody does it because, I get it's a livelihood and you have a business. And if you kind of check out of that, it's hard to continue to be successful. I get that. And I understand that. But it's a shame to think that this just keeps going on. I thought this would have stopped by now. I thought this would be like over. It seems so outdated to me, all this shit. When you say stuff like this, of course, if you're in this world and you've won one of these awards, you're like, fuck this guy, he's an asshole. But literally, my frustration lies to think that as a chef, people, again, are working so hard at the mercy of these bodies who don't give a shit. And they have all these other interests they need to fill. Sponsors,
which, by the way, none of the people you're talking about are like diners. They're not just like the people you're trying to feed, right? The people you're talking about are like, I'm here with a ulterior. I'm here to.
Oh yeah. People. I mean, and honestly, a lot of people can do that now. There's a lot of influencers out there who can do that, who have large followings, and they do it.
For those who are like us, just completely in love with Dan Giusti now. Talk up the
Just
summit.
now?
I mean, always, but like
Fucking
it's been
jerk.
hard.
You're
It's been hard to see you.
You're a fucking
again.
jerk.
It's been hard to see you.
You're
again.
not even making eye contact
It's
with
been
me.
hard to
What are you,
look-
shy?
I am a little bit nervous just to be around you again after all we've been through. Talk up the summit. Tell people what's happening here.
Yes. So, kind of along all these lines, on July 26th and 27th in the Bronx at a school, we're having what we're calling the Brigade Summit. And the whole reason for having it was that in my previous life, and even now, I've attended chef conferences, and it's, fine dining chefs, and they're talking about all kinds of stuff. And then I attend now like school food conferences, and it's always like school food people, and they're very different, but they're having like similar conversations. But because we look at the food service industry as like very separated, these people aren't in the same room. So the whole point of this was to get these people in the same room who otherwise would probably never be in the same room. We're in a unique position to get chefs, school food people, entrepreneurs, farmers, nonprofit leaders, people from large food companies together as attendees, but also as speakers. So, it's 2 days. We're having sessions. There's panels. There's talks. People from, more well-known chefs to famous nutritionists to chefs you've maybe never heard of, but their perspective is important to kids. We're having kids speak about what's important to them. So really just trying to take a new approach and have conversations like, what does it mean to be a successful chef? How do we define good food? One of the things I always talk about is like, if you had to feed a group of people, do you prioritize taste or nutrition? Can you do both? These kinds of conversations that to me are very important conversations that everybody has a very unique voice in. And just based on our preliminary conversations with panelists and our speakers, it's like these people are going to say different stuff. It's hard to run an event like this because surely there's going to be things being said that are a little confrontational or people don't necessarily agree with. And that can be tough, but I think that's important, I think there's a lot of benefits to conferences where there are a lot of similar thoughts and people, and it's fun and it's exciting. But to have these important conversations, like for example, like when I post this shit on Instagram, like it's a lot of the questions I pose on Instagram, and people will be like, "Well, of course this is the answer," and then there's someone else like, "No, I actually think the opposite of that," and it's crazy. It's like people literally in their mind think that there's like one answer to this thing.
Well, yeah, that literally everybody believes this.
Dan, before we get you out of here, this one sort of fantasy question. You're made food czar. That sports czar would be cool too.
I think I should be. Do you see this body right here?
What do you do to fix everything?
I think what I would love to see, that's obviously a really complicated question. But I think
it's not complicated anymore because anything you get to say happens.
What I would love to see is for us as a country to take a kind of just down the middle of the road, reasonable approach to solutions. So, for example, we're either talking about, when we're talking about food, we're either talking about commodity bullshit, complacency, or we're talking about like organic, local, seasonal. And like there's like both ends of the spectrum, but like working down the middle and addressing problems like we can make food incrementally better, incrementally more healthy, but it doesn't need to be like this swing of the pendulum. And right now, like a lot of the people who are trying to make changes in food systems are just up here, like the Alice Waters of the world, who are, they're visionaries, which we need visionaries, but it's not rooted in practicality.
Hardliners.
Yeah, and that, we need more people, I'm proud to say I think we do take an approach down the middle that's very reasonable. Disappointing to some because people think, oh, like, aren't you trying to push more local and seasonal? It's like, yeah, that's important, but more importantly, we're trying to make improvements. And I think looking to just, whether we're talking about school food, whether we're talking about other feeding programs, just taking reasonable approaches versus just associating better with just these extremes. To me, that's like, we have a lot of organizations in this country working on improving food systems.
I got to be honest. I think you'd be a terrible food czar.
I know, right?
That's like the worst fucking response
Jiminy
ever.
Cricket.
Jesus Christ. We're not looking for democracy here.
$200 per kid per meal.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
Can I
give you one quick chance for redemption before we go? I think we would be remiss not to ask one of the world's preeminent authorities on getting fucking kids to eat shit. If you imagine parents at home, like, what are your take? What from 10 years of doing this now? Give us some best practices for like, I gotta get my kids make food that kids want to eat.
Yeah, well, you got to listen to them. You got to gain trust with them. You got to make food that tastes good and not get caught up in fucking where it comes from, adjectives. Forget about the adjectives. Just make good food.
What's the number one most complimented, like, favorite thing on menus that kids are down with?
We have a lot of success with pastas.
Yeah.
But it's like bolognese, Alfredo sauce.
Of course, it's fucking Italian.
Of course, it's Italian.
You see
that we knew. We knew we couldn't.
Maybe as the foods are, we just don't know it.
This is just a yeah. That's actually was going to be my answer. Just a lot more.
I knew we shouldn't have let an Italian American.
A lot more Italian food.
I knew we shouldn't have let one of these guys in here.
Can I ask, why do you think kids love chicken fingers so much?
I mean, I love chicken fingers.
I know too, but why?
I was just on a cruise and I was crushing chicken fingers every night, man. Just in the middle of the Atlantic.
Body by chicken fingers over here.
This is body by chicken fingers right here. This is what chicken fingers will do to a 41-year-old man's body. This is.
Well, listen, guys. We could talk all day, and we haven't in a long time. And if Dan got you excited about maybe challenging your notions of what being a chef or being a cook in this industry is good, and you should learn more, where can they learn more?
On my Instagram, Dan.Giusti, or at Brigade on Instagram, or then chefsbrigade.com is our website, or brigadesummit.com. Come to the summit and learn in person of what we do.
And if you are someone in the food industry and you're upset about what Dan said, is like, I think you should ask yourself, why are you upset?
Yeah, I think so too.
And trust me, I think more than anything, knowing Dan wants solidarity, and Dan wants everyone to do well and be the rising tide that lifts all the boats. So I always find it interesting when people get mad at him, because I think, if anything, we need more people that are going to be the pebble in your shoe.
That's right. Thank you.
So
thanks, guys.
We love you, Dan.
Love you too.
More roosters.
I haven't seen Top Gun 2. I saw the first one.
So good.
I saw the first.
But basically, there's the guy that thinks is the Matt Orlando, and you're like, they chose.
They chose Giusti.
You know, and I was like, that's you.
In the best possible.
But he doesn't. They don't win without you. All right, we got an Ask Dave. What do we got here?
Okay, we have an Ask Dave. This one comes from Jason C. from Costa Mesa, California, right here in Southern California. Major Tomo level. Red flag, Jason C. 8. A self-declared 8.
Maybe this guy's a pro.
Favorite thing to make? Levan pizza. Braised.
What is Levan pizza? He's making sourdough pizza?
Sourdough pizzas.
Well, first of all, Jason is his name?
Jason.
I'm not trying to typecast you. I'm really not. Because you could have just said sourdough. And more importantly, you could have just not said that at all.
Could have just said pizza. Bro. The other
But I'm no judging, but we're judging.
Like I said, some light red flags we're seeing here.
That's not light red. That's like...
That's like a Matador El Toro flag. Other favorite thing to make? Braises. Oxtails, short ribs. Bucket list meal. Now, this is an interesting one. I don't know if this means Jason C. experienced this or wishes he had a time machine, because the bucket list meal is Charlie Trotter's in the late 1980s.
That's super specific.
Super specific. Super specific.
That's peak powers of Charlie Trotter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most significant American chef, by far at that time, which is super weird. Which tells me this person has got to be older, or
pandering. I can't tell.
Or like Hefeweizen principling is. Like, let me. My choice of Charlie Trotter, late 1980s, is my. I just came up abroad and check out my sangria mix.
Just like signaling a little bit here, right?
Yeah. Listen, I'm happy to be wrong. Listen, that is by far celebration. I'm going to celebrate this because that's by far the best, most specific answer. And all I know is sort of what that food looked like.
And I appreciate the pick, regardless of where it comes from. Here's your question, Jason. Why don't new cookbook releases automatically include gram weights in the recipe ingredient list? Specifically, I just picked up a new ice cream book, and all the recipes are volumetric, which is mind-boggling considering how important ratios are in an ice cream recipe.
I think he's a pro.
Is the thought that civilians will be put off by metric weights?
I'm going to withhold judgment. All I'm going to say is great question. This is a long conversation to have, Jason. I can't tell you how many times myself or any other chef that was coming up with a book in the late past 25 years was like, why can't they be in grams? And the only one book publisher that would allow grams was FIDA. Because they make very beautiful books that give chefs almost complete autonomy.
I would say sometimes too much autonomy.
I think we were allowed to do on a Momo book grams when we got to Co.
Yeah, because it was like, this is the fine dining chapter. Yeah.
And that pissed so many people off. And boy, did we have to fight tooth and nail. Rika Alanik was not happy with us at all. Hi, Rika. She did not love our insistence that we complicate matters by putting the metric system. There's only one reason why cookbooks don't have the metric system. It's because Americans are fucking dumb. We're lazy. We're slothful in the mind, in the body, in the spirit, and we don't want exact measurements. Again, my litmus test, as I tell everybody why this is such a stupid thing, is it's a better system when good drug dealers only sell shit in milligrams and grams. Okay? They're not only shitty drug dealers go like, I don't know, that's an ounce. That's a half an ounce.
Give or take.
Give or take. It's a dime bag. What are you talking about? This is allegedly from what I've been told.
Yeah. All theoretical.
So no. If it's good enough for drug dealers, it should be good enough for your specific baking measurements.
Here's a dumb question that I actually don't know the answer to. In Europe, no tablespoons, no teaspoons. But if I say 25 mil, how are they measuring that?
It's always on
on a scale?
On a gem scale. So you have your scale and you have a gem scale. So the milligrams are that, and it's always a scale, and you just tear it out. Not that hard. There's one thing that we didn't say in the bear, which also is a signifier of like, wow, this restaurant's trying to be important. And we did it when we were at Co, because we had it in Australia, and every time I'd go around kitchens in Europe, I'm like, man, those are so much better. We've talked about quart containers, the plastic things that you see, 32 ounce, 16 ounce, 8 ounce deli cups. The problem with those is when you start stacking them up, there's all this negative space that's wasted. It's so stupid. When you have a kitchen and you're tight on space and you're low boy and you walk in, you want to be organized. And also, this is the only time cooks are OCD. It's like, I need to see it. I need to see it exactly like, it has to look like this. When it's all you get it on deliveries. You get the soup and it's like this and the lid is like that. It's flimsy. They suck. The baller shit, I'm not talking glass, but like the plastic containers that are square. The metric containers are awesome. They're fantastic. They're also measuring. You can also measure with them. They are also extremely stackable, and they're very sturdy. And you can see that on the back wall of the bear. And I was like, yeah, good job.
That's a good detail.
Because otherwise, it looks like garbage if you stacked up the shitty fucking Imperial System 32-ounce quart container. It's not only a rough measurement, it's also highly inefficient in its space. At least turn the goddamn quart containers into squares. Is that too hard to ask? Imagine if all Legos were circles. Okay, that's all I'm trying to say. Let's just think for those that are like civilians, like what are you talking about? Imagine if all Legos were circles and cylinders.
Yeah.
How many wonderful things could you build with that?
Yeah, it makes it there is so much wasted space when you try to fill something with a bunch of rounded things. By nature, there's a bunch of space that is not occupied.
So it is not something that, listen, I still use ounces because you know that I'm serious when I start measuring in grams, and you know it's serious when I whip out a gem scale.
I'll tell you from the cookbook author side of things why you're not seeing them in these
Unnecessary.
cookbooks. Most cookbook authors aren't using grams and metric
And more
scales
importantly,
either.
it's just not precise enough. The precision is not necessary to have total upheaval of your consumer readership base.
100%. And most people just want to be like, I don't want to measure.
2008
spoonful.
or whenever that book came out, we got totally shit on for putting grams in. I mean, people were so mad. I cannot stress how pissed off people were in grams.
I have a counter argument to this idea that they should be in grams for Jason just to consider. I mean, I know he's talking about ice cream. He's talking about things with like stabilizers and stuff like that. Part of me is like, we could also swing the complete other way and say no measurements as we like to do. Just like, you don't need to know exactly how many grams of salt to put in this thing. You should taste it and figure that out for yourself. Like, there's an argument to me for the other side of it, which
especially if you're going to make Levain pizza dough.
I talked to a chef recently. He was telling me when they're doing recipe development in the kitchen, the chefs, the cooks will measure out all of the mies ahead of time, give him a tray, and then just measure the weights after to find out exactly how much went in there because they're not going to eyeball all of this stuff.
Listen, we're never going to switch to the imperial system.
It's just not going to happen.
It's never going to happen. So ultimately,
big tablespoons got us in their pocket. And maybe what you need to do is wait for these cookbooks to come out in Europe and then buy the European edition of the cookbook. There's your hack, Jason.
most people aren't making ice cream.
Most people aren't making Levain pizza either.
You know what most people think they can make ice cream with is if I freeze a banana. I saw it on TikTok, and if I put that banana in my blender, it's ice cream.
Banana ice cream. That's how ice cream's made. You still have a little bit of time to get an Ask Dave in and enter for this round.
Can you explain how they can enter?
There will be a link in the description for this podcast. You can send an email to askdave@majortomomedia.com. All we ask is you fill out this. Let us know a little bit about yourself, like we found out about Jason today.
And might I just throw out there, if we get an anonymous, verified drug dealer, that'd be great too. That'd be great. Tell us when you made that switch over from Imperial to metric system.
We don't have to know any personal details.
We want this. We'll keep it totally anonymous.
We'll hide the details, but seriously, if you're a drug dealer,
I can only imagine your confusion time after time when you're like, dude, I only deal in metric.
Statistically speaking, there's almost 100% chance that somebody listening to this podcast has been a drug dealer at some
point. And then
point.
Switched from Imperial system to metric system.
So we know you're listening.
Yes.
Like, raise your hand. This isn't a is there a doctor on the plane situation. This is is there a drug dealer in the listenership situation? Raise your hand.
Allegedly,
please.